Hi, my name is Sergio Bento, and I'd just like to share some thoughts about Hebrews 11. Hebrews chapter 11, and maybe you're going to read the whole chapter. Otherwise, you can read it by yourself. But I'd just like to share a few things that we actually shared this morning at church. So this is the big chapter about faith, if you will. The heroes of faith. And it starts by saying this. Now, faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. Being sure what we hope for and certain. These are two very interesting characteristics of faith. How can you be sure about something? How can you be certain about something if you do not see these things? Well, of course, the do not see here means in this material or physical world. We do not see these things as of yet. But by faith, we can see in our mind, or as people would say, the eyes of faith. So faith is being sure in being certain because we can see in our minds what will happen, for example, in the future. We'll talk about the faith in God, but for just a second, let's talk about the faith of the certainty and that personal and deep inside internal assurance of something that, for example, may happen in the future. So again, it's not the case that it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in the material physical world, but it does exist in the mind of the person that has faith. So it is interesting because we will see that this faith that the author of Hebrews is actually talking about is something that God actually used, he himself. So he kind of in principle, will basically say that God used the same method or the same principle to accomplish what he did accomplish, because verse 3 will say, by faith we understand. So we have the faith, and because we have the faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. So God himself had to create something out of nothing in the physical world, because God himself had in his own mind the picture and the reality of what he was creating. So what I'm saying here is that basically when the author of Hebrews say that faith is this being sure in this certainty, this is exactly how God felt like. God, being God, he was completely sure and he was completely certain that when he basically had that vision, that reality in his mind, he was sure and certain that it would come to pass. And then we know that back in Genesis, when God then spoke, his words had power. So a vision was created in the mind, and by faith, there was certainty and assurance that that vision, that mental reality would come to be. And once God spoke, reality was created. Seems to me that God actually shares this kind of what I will call attribute. God shares a little bit of this attribute that he himself used to create the world, so we can also create our own reality. Now, I say create our own reality, but in reality we are not creating something out of nothing completely, because we do know that because God is God and he has all the knowledge. We do know that when we create a vision, as Christians, we create that vision actually synchronized with the vision of God. So when the reality is formed in our minds, it's not because we were able to create this reality ourselves, but in synchronization with the Holy Spirit, we actually created this vision through the eyes of faith. And then what happens is that basically we can say the word and create our new or our own realities.